This guy could have become a Hollywood star, shining on red carpets and screens in cinemas worldwide. But he chose to become famous in a different way, by becoming a killer. This is the story of Ryan Grantham, the guy who gained popularity in the show Riverdale. Help this channel grow. Like the video, try the new hype feature, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories. This helps us a lot. Thank you. Ryan Grantham appeared in about 30 different films and TV series, and is known for his roles in projects such as iZombie, Falling Skies, Jumper, Supernatural, Riverdale, and many others. However, in recent times, his name has appeared in the media not for his acting achievements at all. Ryan turned out to be a murderer who committed a horrific crime just to remain a good son in his mother's eyes. The pandemic that broke out in the spring of 2020 forced people around the world to hunker down in their homes and apartments, spending all their free time with family. Ryan and Barbara were in their townhouse, passing the evenings playing board games. The woman was even somewhat glad to spend a lot of time with her grown son. In recent years, Ryan had increasingly faced difficulties because his acting career was on the decline. He had no idea how to cope with the fact that he was no longer being offered roles, so he was angry at the whole world. The young man even moved from his student dorm into his mom's house because he desperately needed the support of a loved one. Barbara did everything she could to somehow help her son, to make him smile and forget his problems. Her son Ryan and her older daughter Lisa were the ones she lived for, the ones she woke up for every morning. Tired of board games, Ryan went up to his room on the second floor, and Barbara sat down at the piano and began to play. She knew her son loved it when she played the instrument, so she put her whole soul into performing a familiar melody. At that moment, the woman had no idea that her minutes on this earth were numbered, and she wouldn't even finish the piece for her beloved son. The reason was the illicit drugs that had already taken over the mind of the person planning to take her life. Ryan Grantham was born on November 30th, 1998. He grew up in a small town called Squamish in British Columbia, not far from Vancouver. It was here that the rest of today's story took place. Ryan spent his childhood with his mom Barbara and his older sister Lisa. His father left the family right after his son was born, and afterward, Ryan had almost no contact with his dad, which undoubtedly had a significant impact on his life. From a young age, the boy felt abandoned and unwanted, simply because his father had literally rejected him. This later led to a whole host of other problems. From his earliest years, Ryan experienced psychological difficulties, suffered from anxiety, and developed a speech impediment. And all of this was again linked to the lack of a relationship with his father. When it was time to start school, things got even worse for Ryan, because his classmates bullied him mercilessly. Much of this was due to his speech impediment. Another reason the kids tormented Ryan at school was his short stature. He was the smallest student in his class. This issue followed him into adulthood. His height was only 5 feet 2 inches, 157 centimeters, and due to his slender build, he looked much younger than his age. Because of all the bullying he faced, Ryan developed severe social anxiety. He felt like an outsider, banished from society. And already at the age of 11 or 12, due to mental health issues, Ryan began contemplating suicide. The only person who helped him cope with his struggles and was always there for him was his mom. Barbara Wade was the greatest support and pillar for her son. She was described as an amazing, selfless woman with a sharp mind and incredible charisma. She had a special bond with both her children and loved spending time with them outdoors, skiing, biking, hiking, or just walking. Despite her short stature, which she later passed on to her kids, she was strong and brave, overcoming difficulties with an unwavering positive attitude. Barbara loved animals. There were always 4-legged pets in the house, and she was also a wonderful caregiver for her elderly mother. Overall, Barbara was a remarkable person, a good mother, and a caring daughter. But she couldn't replace a father or friends for her son. Ryan's family was incredibly close-knit, and he had a very good relationship with his older sister, Lisa. And with friends around, he often put on performances for his loved ones. The thing is, Ryan had one very strong passion. From a young age, he dreamed of becoming an actor and starring in movies. For now, his family played the role of his enthusiastic audience. His interest in acting emerged early, when he was just 6 years old. Ryan imitated the habits of some adults so hilariously that Barbara started taking him to acting classes and then to various auditions and castings. And it paid off. At age 8, Ryan began appearing in TV commercials, which was a significant event for both him and Barbara. When he turned 9, his acting career took off even further because he landed his first role in a film called The Secret of the Nutcracker, which offered a fresh take on Hoffman's classic tale. It was a Canadian Christmas fantasy film, quite mediocre. But for Ryan, getting a movie role was still a huge achievement. It was his first major role, a springboard for the boy's future work. After The Secret of the Nutcracker, other opportunities opened up for Ryan. Over the next year, young Grantham played 8 different roles in film and television. Sure, they were just supporting characters, but for a child, his age, it was a dream come true. Then Ryan was offered a guest role in the series Supernatural. The boy played a memorable character named Todd, who had superhuman strength and used it to get revenge on his bullies. Ryan loved the role because it was exactly what he fantasized about during the times he was bullied at school. Playing Todd, Ryan was essentially playing himself in an ideal world. Landing a role in Supernatural was the ultimate dream for a kid. But after appearing in the popular series, all doors opened for Ryan. Soon, he landed a role in the major Hollywood film The Imaginarium of Dr. Parnassus, where Grantham played one of the main characters as a child. The cast included several Hollywood stars: Johnny Depp, Colin Farrell, Heath Ledger, Jude Law, and a young Andrew Garfield. Acting alongside such outstanding masters was simply incredible. That same year, Ryan joined the cast of the Canadian fantasy miniseries Reese Kingdom Falling. By 2010, Ryan Grantham had already appeared in numerous Hollywood and Canadian projects. All of the boy's roles, with his cute appearance, were small, but he was building his portfolio while learning from the greats. For a beginner, it was a hugely successful experience, and Ryan clearly felt he was on the right path to one day becoming a global star. His mom was always by his side, inspiring him to chase his dream. Barbara did everything to get Ryan noticed. She drove her son all over Canada and the United States so he could attend castings or reach film sets. In 2010, 11-year-old Ryan landed a role in Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It was an adaptation of Jeff Kinney's popular book series about the adventures of an ordinary middle school student. After this project, the young actor earned critical acclaim, was nominated for several awards, and won Best Actor at a Vancouver short film contest. That same year, Ryan got a role in the comedy Marley and Me, The Puppy Years. It was a sequel to Marley and Me, released straight to video rather than in theaters. Still, landing a role in this film was very difficult. In 2012, when Ryan turned 13, he got the lead role in the fairly large-scale film Becoming Redwood. In the movie, 11-year-old Redwood, played by Grantham, believed he could reunite his parents by winning a golf tournament. Becoming Redwood was named the most popular Canadian film of 2012 at the Vancouver International Film Festival and received the jury's honorable award for Best Canadian Film. It was a huge milestone for the boy, as the film was set to screen in theaters. There are plenty of behind-the-scenes clips from this project where Ryan chats with the director, clearly having a blast on set. The teenager was in his element and genuinely happy during those years. The young actor's career was going great. He was gaining recognition and starting to land lead roles. All his dreams were coming true, but unfortunately, it didn't last long. After the drama, Becoming Redwood, Ryan Grantham's acting career began to decline. He continued taking small roles in low-budget and mediocre films, but from that point, he appeared on screens much less often. Apparently, Ryan had reached an age where his childlike innocence faded, he became a teenager, and competition skyrocketed. It was a very tough period for Ryan, who was used to casting directors being charmed by his looks and talent. This happened to many child actors. Yesterday they were little stars with big promise, and today all the good roles passed them by. Ryan himself struggled to cope because he had a whole range of mental health issues. His condition improved when he focused on acting, and everything was going well. But now things were sliding downhill again, and depression and anxiety returned in a more severe form. The young man found it hard to communicate and interact with people, so he started dabbling in weed to escape. Soon it turned into a real addiction. Negative thoughts crept in, and he felt like a worthless outcast again. Suicidal thoughts returned. On top of that, the young man began struggling with intimacy, finding it very hard to figure out his sexual preferences. In 2016, Ryan turned 18, graduated high school, and enrolled at Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, and it seemed like things were looking up again. Grantham was invited back to film sets, even landing a lead role in the Canadian film Considering Love and Other Magic, a teen romantic comedy where Ryan played a shy ghost, unable to leave a house for over 60 years. Grantham started appearing in guest roles in series and TV movies again, playing teenagers, and soon after, Ryan lucked into the American series Riverdale, based on the Archie comics. This role was apparently the most iconic in his career. Though it was just a small part, Ryan played a character crucial to the plot's development. Over 7 seasons, the series followed the life and adventures of the cheerful, never-down Archie Andrews and his friends in Riverdale. The story unfolded in the modern world, where the main characters explored the hidden underbelly of a small, peaceful town, its oddities and dark secrets lurking behind a festive facade. At one point, filming was briefly halted to rewrite the script due to the death of a lead actor. The first episode of Riverdale's 4th season was entirely dedicated to the character Fred Andrews, Archie's father, who died in the show. Fred was played by actor Luke Perry, who suddenly passed away during filming from a stroke at age 52. Luke Perry was a very popular actor and character in the series, loved by many Riverdale fans. An entire episode was dedicated to Fred Andrews, the character Perry played. In the show, Fred died in a car crash, and Ryan Grantham played the man responsible for the accident. It was a striking scene, lasting no more than a minute, and Ryan's character never appeared again. Despite appearing on screen only once, his character played a key role in the plot. It was after this small role in Riverdale that Grantham hoped his acting career would take off again. He went to auditions, kept chasing all kinds of roles, but was constantly rejected. In total, Grantham's filmography included about 30 projects, an impressive number considering he wasn't even 20 yet. At the time, Ryan was still in university, just trying to do something with his life and desperately holding on to a positive attitude. But he struggled to keep it together. To cope, he started using drugs again. It happened more and more often, turning back into a full-blown addiction. Ryan's mom, learning of her son's problems, did everything she could to help. Barbara always gave Ryan moral support in everything. Twice, at her urging, he checked into rehab, but each time he relapsed after leaving. Now Grantham faced even more mental health struggles. He felt incredibly isolated, and his anxiety worsened. This led him to stop talking to classmates, leave campus, and move back home to live with his mom. Then Ryan started skipping classes. His grades dropped. Studying and even basic assignments became difficult. It all ended with the threat of expulsion. Yet Ryan told his mom nothing about his university troubles because he didn't want her to be disappointed in him. He was ashamed of constantly failing. First, his acting career fell apart, and now he was flunking school. Ryan just wanted his mom to be proud of him. All this time, Grantham lacked male support since he didn't speak to his father. On top of everything, Ryan's mom, Barbara, was diagnosed with cancer and had to undergo treatment. She was incredibly strong and brave, determined to beat the illness, but her health left much to be desired. This made Ryan feel even worse and more anxious. By late 2019, 21-year-old Ryan was in his fourth year of university. At the time, he was battling severe depression, but hid it even from his mother. Barbara sensed something was wrong with her son, but didn't realize how bad it was. Ryan started thinking about ways to end his life again. Around the same time, the young man fell into the dark side of the internet, becoming obsessed with violence. Grantham watched disturbing content on the dark web, real videos of executions, assaults, torture, car crashes, anything where people died on camera. Around then, he also became interested in firearms, started visiting gun clubs in Canada, and bought 2 rifles and a shotgun. He was also drawn to serial killers and perpetrators of mass violence. Ryan saw himself in them because most were outcasts. The 2019 film Joker, starring Joaquin Phoenix, had a particular influence on Grantham. The movie was set in the early 1980s. Comedian Arthur Fleck lived with his sick mother, who taught him from childhood to always wear a smile. Trying to bring good into the world and make people happy, Arthur faced society's cruelty. Everyone saw him as different. Gradually, the protagonist concluded that the world wouldn't get his kind smile, but a villain's smirk. Ryan truly empathized with the character, who, like him, struggled with mental health issues. In the film, the Joker resolved his inner turmoil by killing the talk show host who represented evil to him during a live broadcast. Immersing himself in Arthur Fleck's world, Grantham began fantasizing that he might do something similar. He started believing that violence in some form could end his mental health struggles. Ryan planned every possible way he could take someone's life. He dove headfirst into darkness, continuing to watch real deaths on the dark web. In March 2020, the pandemic began. The whole world went into lockdown, and now Ryan faced even greater isolation than before. It became too much for him. At that moment, he decided his fantasies shouldn't stay fantasies. He wanted to make them real. Grantham's diary filled with disturbing entries about committing mass violence. The young man was heavily inspired by the Joker. He decided the world would know his name. His photo would be on newspaper covers, and everyone who ignored him before would talk about him. Lost in dark dreams, Ryan planned to kill Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He believed that would cement his name in history, even if negatively. So Ryan began plotting Trudeau's assassination, gathering weapons, learning to make Molotov cocktails, and tracking the Prime Minister's travels. But first, he decided he needed a practice run by taking a life. That person would be his own mother. It wasn't that he didn't love his mom. Ryan just didn't want Barbara to witness his fall from grace. He didn't want her to feel shame, grief, or devastation because her son had become a criminal. It was truly heartbreaking because his mom was the only person who loved Ryan despite all his flaws and was his greatest support. Barbara poured her heart and soul into raising him, and now Grantham wanted to shield her from his downfall in this horrific way. He even filmed himself walking around the house with a rifle, rehearsing how he'd shoot his own mother. These videos were later presented in court as evidence of premeditation. On the evening of March 31st, 2020, Ryan and Barbara were home alone. His older sister Lisa had moved out by then. Mother and son played board games to pass the evening. Barbara thought they were having a great time. At 6:45 p.m., Ryan suddenly stood up from the table and left the living room. He went upstairs to his bedroom to grab a .22 caliber rifle and carry out his deadly plan. Ryan started descending the stairs and, halfway down, saw his mom sit at the piano and begin playing. The young man adored when Barbara played music for him. In that moment, he froze, sat on the steps, and listened. For the next 15 minutes, Ryan sat immersed in the magical world of sound, watching his mom's hands dance across the keys. From the stairs, he could see the back of her head, but she noticed nothing around her. Barbara didn't hear Ryan stand up, aim the rifle at her head, release the safety, close his eyes, and pull the trigger. Grantham fired once, hitting his mother in the head and killing her instantly. Instantly, Barbara fell from the chair to the floor. Blood oozed from her wound. In that moment, the life of 64-year-old Barbara Wade tragically ended. Fortunately, the woman never saw that her son did it. Otherwise, it would have broken her completely. 15 minutes is a long time to weigh everything and abandon a sinister plan to kill the woman who gave you life and raised you. But Ryan thought differently. He grabbed his camera and started filming a video for his vlog. Grantham walked around the house, recording everything, including Barbara's lifeless body on the floor, and narrating what he'd just done. It only fueled his desire for infamy. He wanted to be remembered. When the recording was later shown in court, everyone heard how cold and emotionless the young actor's voice sounded as he described taking his own mother's life. Psychologists said it could indicate a loss of sanity, that physically the young man didn't realize what he'd done. But the defendant himself refuted that. The recording ended with Ryan standing in front of a mirror in his bedroom, saying in a frightened voice, "You just shot your mother in the back of the head, and you think you're so cool?" Whether it was belated regret was unclear. Then Grantham moved to the second part of his vile plan. At 7:15 p.m., the young man got in his car, drove to a nearby gas station, filled a large canister with gasoline, and returned home to make several Molotov cocktails. He spent the rest of the evening filling glass bottles with flammable liquid. Meanwhile, he smoked weed, drank beer, and watched TV, with his mother's body lying just a few feet away. The next morning, Ryan woke up and had breakfast like any ordinary day. After that, he performed a farewell ritual over his mother's body. He hung rosary beads on the piano so they dangled over Barbara, lit candles, said a few prayers, and then covered the body with a white sheet. "I'm so sorry, Mom. I hate myself," Grantham wrote in his diary that day. "The media writes a lot about me. I appeared in movies and on TV a lot, but no one will ever understand why I did it." After the farewell, Grantham went outside, loaded 2 rifles, a shotgun, the incendiary bottles, and some survival gear into his car. Ryan even made a playlist for the trip, and then set off to kill Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. He also planned a deadly mass shooting afterward. So Ryan was on his way to his target. But there was one problem. Trudeau lived in Ottawa, and Grantham was near Vancouver. Getting to the Prime Minister's residence required about 50 hours on the road. Ryan embarked on an incredibly long road trip with the intent to carry out his sinister plan. But after driving east for 3 hours, covering about 125 miles to the town of Hope, he suddenly changed course, turned around, and headed back to Vancouver. Apparently, Ryan realized he wasn't all-powerful, and killing the Prime Minister would be far harder than murdering his own mother. But he wasn't giving up. A new plan was already forming in his head. Grantham considered various options. First, he wanted to drive to Vancouver's famous Lions Gate Bridge, stop the car, block traffic, start throwing Molotovs, and shoot people. Then Ryan thought about going to his university campus and carrying out a mass shooting there, spreading as much fear and panic as possible. Sitting in his car near the campus, Grantham smoked weed and visualized every detail of how he'd act. But something clicked inside him, and he abandoned the mass violence ideas, deciding to just end himself. Ryan put the pistol to his head, but soon realized he couldn't go through with it. He started the car and drove to the nearest police station to turn himself in. "I killed my mother," he told the officer at the sheriff's office desk. While Grantham confessed to police, his older sister decided to check on their mom. Lisa, worried that her calls and texts went unanswered, went to the townhouse, let herself in with her key, and walked into a horrific scene. Barbara's lifeless body lay on the floor, covered with a white sheet. Blood was everywhere. Rosary beads hung from the piano, and candle stubs still smoldered around the body. It fell to the daughter to discover her mother's body in this gruesome state. Lisa immediately called the police. Detectives arriving at the scene searched the house and found Ryan's camera with his recorded confession. After the horrific discovery in the family home, Lisa struggled with PTSD for a long time and barely coped with the devastating loss of her mother. Because of it, she even lost her job as a lawyer. Lisa couldn't believe until the end that her own brother had raised a hand against the person willing to sacrifice her life for him. What hurt Lisa most was that Ryan didn't even give their mother a chance to defend herself, attacking while her back was turned. The promising actor was arrested and charged with murdering Barbara Wade. A trial began. Ryan's defense tried to argue insanity, citing the mental health issues Grantham was experiencing at the time. His lawyer claimed Ryan committed the crime due to a mental disorder, including severe clinical depression. But after evaluation by several psychiatrists, Ryan was deemed sane. He did have disorders, but at the time of the crime, he was of sound mind and fully understood the difference between right and wrong. Accordingly, he bore full responsibility for his actions. The prosecution stated that Ryan had committed a heartbreaking abuse of trust. His mother was a wonderful person, and he had no reason to fear her. Ryan Grantham fully admitted his guilt. He explained to police that he couldn't let his mother witness the violence he planned to inflict on the world and himself. Thus, he avoided a full trial and was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 14 years. This meant he could be released at age 37. The very possibility of his release caused concern, especially since he had planned a mass shooting. After all, Ryan sent his mother to her death just so she wouldn't learn of his evil plans and be disappointed in her son. When passing sentence, the court also imposed a lifetime firearms ban on Grantham. He received necessary psychological help. In prison, Ryan grappled with the consequences of his actions. He hoped to dedicate the rest of his life to making amends. "It hurts to think how wastefully I spent my life," he said at the time. "In the face of such a horrific tragedy, apologizing feels pointless. With my whole being, I ask for forgiveness." Ryan Grantham, with a breaking voice, told the court there was no excuse for killing his own mother. Ryan wasn't even surprised by the verdict. His lawyer said in an interview that Grantham expected this outcome. But the attorney worried that due to his client's short stature and slender build, prison would be very hard. There he could face physical, psychological, and sexual violence. The young actor likely wasn't thinking about that when he aimed the rifle at his mother's head. Ryan Grantham showed great promise in the film industry from early childhood. Had it not been for his drug use and refusal to grow up, he might have become one of today's greatest actors. But there's also a high chance of a different outcome. Perhaps Grantham's guest role in the hit series was the peak of his success. And now many know him only as the young man who took the life of the person closest to him. If you have finished watching, you are a real fan of true crime. Subscribe to the channel, turn on the bell notifications, and put the like. See you in the next video.